With gratitude for those who came before us, we meet in a moment carried by generations. The pattern is here, alive in our DNA, spoken through living voices, and present in the light of this time. What if this is the harmony we've been living toward? What if the cycles unfolding now are asking us to live them fully? For this light, this time, this shared path, we give thanks. Welcome to Patterns in Nature and Number. 5 generations into the Noosphere.
With the Galactic Spin Podcast and expand your view.
And welcome to the Galactic Spin Podcast, episode 45. My name is Mikuak Rai, Kin 126, and I am joined by my soul brother, Rubén Llinás, Kin 113, in Lakesh, Rubén.
In Lakesh, brother Makua, and thank you for holding space again for one more episode on this epic journey towards the golden intersection. Today we have an episode loaded with synchronicities again.
Wow.
And we put a lot of work and effort on this because we noticed this morning a major synchronicity of today, and we wanted to make that as part of what we want to share tonight because I think we are all feeling the intensity of the times we are living. And every 7 days that we meet here seems to be like a whole different planet sometimes. There's a lot to hold, a lot to take every week and come back here.
Yeah, it's incredible, really and truly what we're seeing take place in various ways. And so to take a zoom out like we do when we apply these codes and we observe these synchronicities, and we can become more clear about how we got here in this entanglement that we now seem to find ourselves navigating. So before we get too far into it, though, I want to give a special shout out to Michelle for that fantastic opening video, and really a moment to give thanks and share gratitude on behalf of those who have come before us. And happy to see kin are beginning to join in. Shout out to Delia Sky as well for her tones, the Arctara tones, arctarablog.com. They can learn more about what Delia offers. Those tones are beautiful, though, to be able to weave them into the energy of today, because we know that that actually resonates in the frequency of today's kin and today's date, as it were, on the 13 moon calendar. Because to derive those tones, to gather those tones, you have to actually enter the calendar and do a particular mathematical factor. You have to do a series of factors, in fact, in order to arrive at those tones. And so we really do appreciate the effort that goes into what Delia provides and offers to us to help us tune in and stay tuned. I see Jason Gibson, Garrett Gibson, that is, in the chat as well. Great to see him in the frequency in the field. And to all those others tuning in now, or those who'll tune in the future, we welcome you. And because we have such, I don't want to go much further, just to ignore or to need to say right here at the front of this episode. In fact, I'm a little remiss because I need to pull something up one moment. But, there's a lot going on right now, and we collectively are navigating quite a time, let's just say. And so today's awareness to the synchronicities are very pertinent, in fact, to this larger zoomed out lens that we see. And really today we're going to get into really zooming out the past 100 years, just to give a scale and a scope for people tuning in, just to get a sense when we talk about the pattern of nature and numbers. That's a bit about what we're getting into as well, because there are patterns in the noospheric level that we see mathematically, that we can identify through synchronicity and synchronization with the 13 moon calendar or natural time. And at the same time, there are other patterns we see, repeating time loops that seem to occur across the generations, we could even say. Yeah. There's different measurements, different scales at which these patterns also occur. 28 years, we know, is a particular pattern. And 20 is one that we're going to look at tonight, and very significant, just to make conscious as we do this. And in Lakesh, to those tapping in and just stepping into the field, we appreciate your presence on the planet. And, so with that said, I feel it appropriate. I want to put a link in the chat just for folks to receive. And I feel this platform is not particularly about politics, as it were, though it is about human rights. It is about Indigenous rights, as we've begun to make more and more clear with previous episodes, in terms of the trajectory that we recognize. We have, for example, our natural rights. We have natural time. We have a natural time calendar, or synchronometer, as it were. We have our natural mind, which we're going to talk a little bit about today as well. And with our natural minds, we can perceive the weaving of what is before us, or what we are part of here in this embodiment, right? And so we want to make these things a little bit more clear here, particularly as it relates to what we're witnessing and observing across the planet, and the violations, the ongoing violations, not like it just began yesterday or even 3 years ago. Though now things have reached such a fever pitch, such a ramping up, that even as of today, we know that machinations are underway to go in and completely obliterate a peoples from their home. And as one Indigenous person to others, I can't obviously stand by idle or quiet about that. And so, again, we're not politicizing this platform. It's not about that, though it is about putting a proper lens on what we see occurring today and appreciating how it's been occurring and recurring for generations. And what does that mean as we approach this golden intersection of timelines? What does that mean in relationship to the noosphere? That's what we want to really unpack. But I do want to pause it here and just as collaborators and cooperators with the Indigenous Water Bank Co-op, we recently, as the co-op, published a statement. The co-op is private, just to be clear. It's a private membership club that or organization that people can become members of. Though we did put forward a public statement as an Indigenous-led organization, an INGO that is, as I said, Indigenous-led and is part of the international cooperatives that have autonomously operated for over 100 years here, technically speaking, though we know cooperatives stem from our ancestors. So it goes way back before the dating and time stamping of these things might have begun. Why is that relevant now? Because we have to shift from the de facto paradigm that has been pursuing and perpetuating the type of grievances that we continue to see recurring every generation.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it was the other wars and conflicts of the past 40 years and 30 years and 20 years and on and on and on. We could go back to the generation of Vietnam, or even before then the Korean conflict, Korean War, before then World War II, and on and on and on to the continuum of these events. And so unless we call them out as a unified consciousness, as a unified body, then these things won't change. And the reason why the powers that appear to be are so bent on our separation is they know if we call them out as a unified body, it's over. They have to prevent us from unifying. So if we look at every turn of every movement and where it finds itself now, it's practically mute. While before us, we're observing atrocities that are, nearly unparalleled, given the fact that information is at our fingertips, and these are communication devices. But what are we really communicating? Or what communication's being muted or, censored, for example?
Yes.
So, I don't mean to take so much time, but I think it's worth the moment to just observe when we talk about where we've just come from. And we'll get into this here in a few moments, but I just want at the top of the offering tonight, it's important. I want to read, if I might, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, please.
I'm going to read from the direct statement. And as I mentioned, I'll put a link to the statement for those that do want to follow along and just, take this into consideration. As an organization, as IWB is, an international cooperative observed by the UN as an Indigenous-led organization or Indigenous peoples organization, we have rights that we have to claim. We have to stand on those rights. And one of those binding documents that we recognize to be binding, as it's been signed by the leaders of every nation as of 2010, is the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And so what we're witnessing en masse, globally, around the world, is a complete violation of these effectively indigenous rights that we're talking about. And when we say indigenous, we're talking about people connected to the land for generations, unbroken to certain parts of the land. So when we talk about the people of Palestine specifically, we're talking about a people who are from that land for thousands and thousands of years. These are indigenous people. These are our indigenous brothers and sisters. What we're witnessing is happening to our very own. Let's just be clear. So we who move with the waters of memory and breathe in the law of the land cannot remain silent. As a global indigenous international cooperative operating in the private sector and committed to restoring balance through water, culture, and co-creation, the Indigenous Water Bank affirms our solidarity with the Palestinian people, the original and continuous inhabitants of the lands known today as Gaza and historic Palestine. Palestinians are indigenous people. They hold uninterrupted ancestral, spiritual, and agricultural relationships with their land, language, and traditions. Their identity predates modern political borders and state systems, and their existence has endured through centuries of foreign rule, colonization, and forced displacement. We recognize the events of 7 October 2023 as a tragic affront to human life. The loss of any innocent lives, Israeli or Palestinian, is a wound to our collective humanity. We do not endorse violence in any form by any party. Yet we also recognize that this single day has been used to justify an even deeper and more violent assault on the Palestinian people, one rooted in a system of apartheid, occupation, and displacement that has been in place since 1948. In that year, the creation of the State of Israel, backed by colonial and geopolitical interests, resulted in the Nakba catastrophe, the forced expulsion and displacement of more than 700,000 indigenous Palestinians, the destruction of over 400 villages, and the permanent exile of families from their ancestral homelands. This foundational act of erasure set the precedent for the ongoing denial of Palestinian land rights, cultural continuity, and the right of return. What continues to unfold in Gaza is not simply retaliation, it is the escalation of settler colonial violence enabled by global complicity and enforced through military might. It is the forced removal of families, the desecration of land and memory, and the weaponization of history. Most egregiously, it now includes the deliberate use of starvation as a tactic of war, cutting off access to food, water, and humanitarian aid in violation of the most basic codes of dignity and international law. We state unequivocally, the State of Israel is in direct violation of international humanitarian law. These violations include customary IHL Rule 53, prohibiting the starvation of civilians as a method of warfare. Additional Protocol 1, Article 54 of the Geneva Conventions, forbidding attacks against food, water, and relief supplies essential for civilian survival. Article 8.2b, 25 of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, defining this international starvation of civilians as a war crime, especially when counted with the obstruction of humanitarian aid. These codes are not symbolic, they are binding. To starve a people is to destroy not only bodies, but culture, community, and future generations. As an indigenous international cooperative operating in the private sector, we stand for the right of return for displaced Palestinians, the immediate end to military occupation and settler expansion, global recognition of the Palestinian people's status as indigenous under frameworks such as the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, an international movement toward reparative justice, sacred restoration, and cultural remembrance. We call on the United Nations and especially the UN Security Council to order an immediate and binding international ceasefire, extending to all parties and enforced with urgency. While General Assembly Resolutions ES 1021 and ES 1022 and Security Council Resolution 2728, adopted on 25 March 2024, have called for humanitarian pauses or limited ceasefires, no lasting and enforceable ceasefire has been implemented. We therefore formally request that the UN act now to mandate a full ceasefire without delay. As a voice within the worldwide indigenous collective and in alignment with the spiritual intent of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, we implore the United Nations to listen to the ancestral conscience of the world. The Indigenous Water Bank Cooperative stands not only for water and land, but for life, truth, and a future in balance. To our Palestinian relatives, we see you, we hear you, we remember with you, and we walk with you toward renewal. In service to water, truth, and ancestral integrity, Indigenous Water Bank Cooperative IWB 7 August 2025. NS 138, 113, 136, Ken 136, Yellow Rhythmic Warrior. So I want to just posit that there and say gratitude to the Creator that we have a voice, and gratitude for community of conscience that can come together in unity as a unified voice. Because these things will not occur to a solutionary outcome if we remain fractured and separated by whatever we perceive separates us, because in truth, nothing separates us other than a figment of our imagination, honestly. So we have to muster the willpower to remove the impediments from our ability to see and speak truth to power in the face of such grievous atrocities.
Yes.
Honestly, really and truly. And I would pray that anybody else would do the same for me and for my family, for goodness sakes. There's only one of us here. So I just want to acknowledge King Etsnab Shaquano Reyes in the chat. Peace, brother, in Lakesh. And IWB is the entity, the cooperative that he founded and is the trustee for. And with his support and his guidance, we, were really compelled to put forward this message on behalf of the international, or rather the Indigenous Water Bank Cooperative, an international cooperative. And so, you've heard us and we'll continue to emphasize this, but shifting out of the paradigm of separation and fragmentation towards a unified field is really what's necessary right now, more than anything. And this is really what the golden intersection of timelines is also about. It's about helping support that momentum towards greater unity, greater whole being, wholeness, and that's a part of this evolutionary shift underway. But again, we give thanks. And for those that do want to find that document, it is on the buildabetterworld.iwb.coop website in the drop-down menu. You'll find it there under, I want to say, the global network or something to that effect. But the statement is published on buildabetterworld.iwb.coop. And we encourage you to download the PDF, and contemplate it, if not share it with others. But, again, I think this is time that we, however we can, use our voices, use our platforms to call out this, the brutality. I mean, so many words and, curse words, honestly. I try to refrain from that, right? But it's like, it's just unbelievable. And I know many of you feel this way, and perhaps maybe we censor ourselves as to how we address the situation for whatever it is that we may feel we either risk, the risk of judgment or the risk of any of that stuff, because obviously there's a whole contamination of consciousness happening right now. We're witnessing that. And so to actually detoxify and decontaminate oneself is it's a pretty revolutionary effort and act, honestly, to be clear seeing and have clear sight in the face of such atrocities. Because as we've said before, whatever. The fact is, the whole planet is experiencing a complete transformation, and it looks really, really super messy right now.
Yeah.
So we have to, tap in.
Yeah, and of course the people from Palestine are right now the example of any human being and what a human being deserves, and well, it's been really a challenge to watch over the past week or so the movements and the the geopolitical moves that are kind of in the making to bring an end, a peaceful end, of course, to the conflict that is right now happening. And I think this is beyond all the synchronicities and the evolution of consciousness. If we cannot really protect the most basic sacred rights of any living being, then, well, we are failing the test, really, as humanity. And this is certainly an opportunity to stand up and to do the right thing, which is defend life, defend the sacred, stand up for the humanity of all the people that have been abused in such a way for the past almost 80 years, and also for centuries on planet Earth. We have been here really open in speaking about indigenous peoples, and the relevance of the golden intersection of timelines is also that it's connected to that moment in time when this encounter between cultures started to happen, and that has been really spinning out of control. And we see today still more signs of neocolonialism. So it is important
Call it out.
as we move forward towards the golden intersection that we are, as human beings, just doing whatever is possible to protect other human beings, and to protect their right to live with dignity.
Yeah. And I want to give a special message to anybody in DC right now, which is a special case, unprecedented, never before happened. What's happening today, in fact, on Kin 140, in this, the first moon of our yellow resonant seed year. Just paying special attention, and really a shout out to my brothers and sisters and family in DC to stay safe. Definitely organize, unify yourselves, get mobilized, and stay safe. Okay. And recognize that there's a shift happening, and one is being enforced, but another's coming up from within us. And so we want to ride that wave. It's a new wave, and it's going to require us to make some distinct declarations and assume our rights, actually, and step into that paradigm where we actually have rights. Because under the current domination code in the United States, you don't have rights. It's very questionable if you have rights that are going to be regarded and honored, unless you're, of a particular status or sort, and that's just the nature of the game. The fact is, though, you got to step out of that domestic local dynamic and broaden that to resume your integrity as a planetary being with so-called international rights. You have true autonomy. And that's one thing we want to really illumine here for people, is we don't have to stay under the duress of a system that's failed us from the very beginning. And by us, those people know who I'm talking to. They know the us I'm speaking of. Those who've always been put on that side of an equation, of this conundrum that we're navigating here. So all that to say, just stay safe and be in your heart, even as you're observing all this machination unfold before our very eyes. Stay safe and stay in your light, as Baba Rusty would say. So without that, without further ado, rather, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get into the Earth's Pulse. In Lakesh, thank you for tuning in.
Well, today, while we were scanning the news, we decided to put as the first pulse of the day one that is not in the news really, is not major, making major headlines at the moment, but it's important because it will give us the right context for everything that we are going to cover tonight, which is pretty expansive and extensive. And it's the fact that today, on a day like today, according to the Gordon Martinez Thompson correlation of the Mayan calendar, on a day like today is the official, the day one or the start of the long count took place. And this is important to acknowledge because, well, as we will cover on the other sections, there is an overlap of events happening today that are connecting us to the past and to the future, and of course what we want to acknowledge at this point in time is that just in the last week or the last heptad, we had Indigenous Peoples Days, and we had the completion of 80 years of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and we saw also a lot of talk about the nuclear, the leaders of the nuclear countries meeting in Alaska soon, and we saw nuclear submarines going to Europe. So there is the energy, the field is supercharged, because every time that we arrive to these thresholds, there is let's say a new wave of contemplation that takes place, especially after what we have seen happening in Palestine, which is kind of going in that same timeline of events like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because those were like really decisive points in the history of our recent evolution as a human species, and the fact that on a day like today was the start of the long count, it gives us the possibility to really tap into the larger picture and see how the episodes that we are living today are reflections of or a ripple of prior events that are basically replaying over and over until we can make them conscious and transcend it, like what is happening right now in the Middle East, which is becoming very obvious for most people that something has to be done to stop the brutality and the starving of the people. So these dates allow us to really hold it all in this container and bringing it to the light of consciousness, so that it can really transform into a new narrative, into a new story. And that's what we are going to embark today or tonight, is in finding the points of resonance between past, present, and future that are allowing us to establish that this is a pretty much decisive, or the most decisive time in the process of human evolution, and how this is happening just a few heptads away from crossing the golden intersection of timelines threshold. So
maybe just to mention as well, just the connection being for a how.
Yes.
Back then, how many years ago is this now? 3114 BC to 2025 AD. Add that together. What do we have?
Yeah.
Like,
there is 3138 which is an amazing number because we are on new zero cycle 1.38.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
And so 4-How also being the marker and the long count, the very same long count, with its unbroken chain of cycles being the very same day, October 14th, 2025.
Yes. So we are connecting today that event in way past in the timeline.
38 years of this.
No, 5138.
50, forgive me, 5138. Let's be clear.
5138.
5138. Indeed. Wow. That's a
So
long time.
yeah, and on October 14 we will complete another marker of that date for a how. That's why we consider it was important to acknowledge it, and to really let people give them tools to appreciate the scale of what is transpiring, because this is really, as we can see, the GMT correlation, which is this basically a constant and mathematical constant to be able to correlate dates on the long count, like the start, with Gregorian dates, and come to the conclusion that the date August 11, like today, is the most recognized one, but that it's the GMT correlation, as is stated in Wikipedia, was chosen by John Eric Sidney Thompson in 1935 on the basis of earlier correlations by Joseph Goodman in 1905, August 11, Juan Martinez Hernandez in 1926, August 12, and Thompson himself in 1927, August 13. So let's say that August 11, 12, and 13 are valid points to have this contemplation, because there's a few differences here and there on the way that this date is calculated. But we took the screenshot from the most used one, that or at least the application that we use the most, which is from starroot.com, and has both the dream spell date and the long count date, which is 4-How 8 Kumku. And that's how we know that this is the right match, because we add the date to the converter, August 11 of the year minus 3114, and we arrive to the same coordinates of long count 0000 4-How 8 Kumku. So having said that, it's interesting to note that the long count is apparently connected to an event connected to the planet Venus. Seems like it was an event that took place in the closest planet to our Earth, that really changed the orbit and changed the outlook of that cycle since then. And here we are seeing that precisely Venus and Jupiter are conjoining they're going to come to the closest to each other tomorrow, or maybe now in Europe when they are watching us. Probably the Venus is already rising with Jupiter in the night sky, and this is of course part of something that we already discussed on the last two podcasts, which is that this emergence of Venus right at the start of the 13th moon year is connected to the future and to the cycles of Venus in the future in exactly 4 solstices. It will have a conjunction of the star with our sun and planet Earth, and start that new 8-year pentagonal cycle. But for the moment, it's important to see that if you are watching this now and you want to really see the best out of it, just wake up tomorrow morning early and see before dawn the sky to, I think it's to the east, and you will see a picture like the one that we have on the next slide, which is it was taken on August 8th by George Klingersberger in Austria. And that's how this is really how this is not a simulation or computer generated image. Is actually a photograph taken just 3 days ago. Tomorrow both planets are going to appear even closer, so it's a good moment to really go out and connect to the larger cycles and the larger patterns of nature, and contemplate everything that is happening in our world with that intention of realizing why are we here now, and why are we witnessing everything that we are witnessing. And today holds a little bit of the answers to that, if we really go deeper enough, which is what we will do on the next section, the next couple of sections, so that we can really put into not only the context of the long count, but the context of the atomic era and the context of the emergence of the noosphere, the evolutionary moment that we are just right now being part of, which is unique in so many ways, and transcendental in so many other ways.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Well, let's go ahead and sink in and tune up in that case. Thank you, brother. And welcome to the Yellow Resonance Seed Year. Happy to be here with you all. We're a few heptads into that at this point, and so we're grateful to be in this next cycle at this point. Anything you'd like to speak to here?
No, that we are just, like we mentioned before, we started this year within this same cycle of 20 days at the heart of the Solkin matrix, and now we are in the fractal count, approaching an important moment. This is the third heptad of the year, and this heptad is connected to the golden proportion. But before that, it's important to acknowledge that on the fractal count of one moon equals one kin, this entire magnetic moon is connected to the red magnetic serpent. This is according to the 20 tablets of the law of time. If we go to the next slide, this is how the fractal overlay of the year operates. It's called the 13 moon planetary service wave spell. So each moon is represented by one kin. This way we can measure cycles of 13 moons, of 52 moons, and 260 moons. And within that framework, this entire cycle, which is the serpent, is the 9th cycle of 13 days of the 1320 matrix. This would be a year that is really all about our life force, all about our capacity to survive, really, but survive using that life force to the fullest of our abilities, and that red serpent is also, as we can see on the next slide, a fractal of the Chinese New Year that started also at the beginning of 2025 in February. It's a lunar calendar, but it's also the year of the serpent. And the purpose of this entire moon is to question ourselves once again with the wisdom that we have acquired from our last 13 moon cycle, that was the wave spell of the human, and ask ourselves with renewed wisdom, what is our purpose, or what is my purpose? So we are on during these entire 28 days asking us that question. And as humanity, since today is also, we can go back to that 0 point of the Mayan long count. Well, what is the purpose of evolution? Is a good way of contemplating or observing today the energy of this moon, especially because as we mentioned, and we can see on the next slide, this today is the square that is on green, on bright green, which is kin 140 in the Tzolk'in count, and that's the last day of the central column of the Tzolk'in matrix that started we started the year right there, right on kin 124, the fourth day of that 20-day cycle at the center or at the heart of the Tzolk'in. So today is kind of the emergence of that human through the birth canal. Skin, that's what this kin 140 yellow planetary sun represents. And as we can see also, the next heptad will be, or the next episode that we will be transmitting will be on kin 147. That will be the fourth day of the cycle of the yellow seed that starts on day 21 of this moon, and continues for the next 12 days into the lunar moon. But what is interesting to note here is that according to the one kin equals 1 week or 1 heptad, which is the column that we see at the left of the screen here, we are right now navigating or about to enter the golden section of 260 heptads, which is this kin 160, which represents the golden section of the 1320 matrix. But in this case, it's a golden section of weeks or heptads. That means that we have 260 heptads or weeks of 7 days in 5 years. 5 years, 52 weeks per year, 260 heptads. And within that cycle, we are entering that golden section, and we want to make that conscious now, because on the next episode we will be there and we will speak a little bit more about it. But it's worth saying that we are already entering into resonance, because that lunar moon is going to keep counting kins that are close to the golden intersection. Like the fifth week of the year would be kin 161. The sixth week of the year will be kin 140, kin 162, and those are close values to the golden intersection. So let's say that at least the next heptad and the heptad following that one on the lunar moon are also harmonic nodes of reference for us to navigate.
As we're sharing this, I'm seeing some interesting things in the chat. King El Ray mentioned that August 11th, 73 is the noted birth date of hip hop. So hip hop culture as an influence and a force around the world. And then what's more, that also happened to be literally 52 years ago today. So on Kin 140,
Oh, wow.
that is the noted birth of hip hop as we're making this conscious. So 52 is, for those out there listening, that's the big one in terms of your synchronization cycle for your life. So that means today, technically, hip hop becomes an elder.
Mm-hmm. And do you know what was that song?
Oh, I'm not sure. This seems to be some knowledge, ear to the ground, information. But from King El Rey in the chat, maybe he can provide more background on some factors of that. But in any case, I thought that's a beautiful synchronicity, just a consideration here. Ken 140, the power of manifestation, planetary energy. Yeah, that's beautiful. So as we complete this, as you said, the mystic column, we can see that in the graphic here as well, highlighted in green. We're on the last section of the central column there today, Kin 140 in this galactic Zolkin. And yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and let's also remember that this entire year of the yellow resonant seed is at the center of a bundle of 13 years. So everything that happens this year is going to ripple 6 years in the past and 6 years in the future. And we don't have regularly a year bearer or a signature for the entire year that or let's say in another way, we don't often start a year at the center of the Solkin matrix. So this is a special, very, very special year because of that. And we mentioned also that we are closing also a 13-year bundle that goes from the year 2013 to the year 2026. And that's part of precisely of the milestone that we are completing this year with the 13 tunes and the 13 years, solar years of the crossing of or the closing of the cycle of 13 back tunes. That means that we are in a very, very, very unique and auspicious point in time.
To say the least.
Yes. And this is where we are today. We are on that place that we are, King 140. We're highlighting the start of the long count 5,138 years ago. It was the day one of the long count. And what really emerged from contemplating this website is that so many markers are synchronizing or overlapping that are calling us for a deeper analysis. One of them being the fact that Indigenous Peoples Days is always celebrated August 9th, which happens to be always the anniversary of the third nuclear bomb at Nagasaki on August 9, 1945. And this year it's synchronized with the galactic return of Vladimir Vernadsky, who was a biochemist that was one of the first promoters, along with Pierre Teilhard de Chardin and Edouard Leroy, of the term noosphere. It's just that as a biochemist, he was oriented to describe this process as part of a larger evolutionary process of biochemical combustion that is taking place on Earth. But we in preparing the notes for this episode, we realized that he basically died or passed on January 1945, which is precisely only a few Gregorian months, 7 Gregorian months from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So he was not a witness to that. But the fact is that since 80 years corresponds to a cycle of 4 generations, 4 cycles of 20 generations each is 80 years. And 20, yes, four cycles of 20 years is 4 generations. So we have that container of 4 generational groups going through the trauma of the nuclear age. And this is part of a larger tapestry that goes back to the years 1926, 1925, 1922, where the term noosphere was coined, and we will go deeper into that on the Time is Our section, because really what we need to uncover, or what we want to uncover, is those connections that the cycles of time are bringing us to our attention, to really see what are what is the response that is eliciting from us right now, as a species, as individuals that are going through our own evolutionary process as individual souls. These holographic time containers are really making us, or allowing us to see ourselves in the mirror and correct the evolutionary path that we are choosing. So basically, the fact that all these elements are converging in this wave field, and that, as we can see on the next slide, these same windows synchronize with another important point in time, which was the start of the new Sirius count. That is a pattern that really caught our attention. This is from our the wave field that was happening a year ago. These same dates, as we can see, August 11, when we were completing 5,137 years of the start of the long count, synchronized by one day, only one day off, with the start or the completion of 52 galactic spins from the day one of Moon 1 of New Sirius Cycle 1.0, the first year of the new dispensation of time, the year of the white galactic wizard, King 34. So basically, 1 year ago, I think we examined this on episode 33, because I was going today through the notes, kind of collecting the data, and this is something that today really pop up, because what are the chances that we are today not only celebrate or commemorating one more year of the long count, with everything that is happening, and with the completion of those 4 generations or 80 years, and it was precisely 1 year ago when we were also synchronizing with the start of another important accounting timekeeping system, which is the new dispensation of time. Now, what is interesting, and that we are going to reveal and speak on the next section, is that King 140, the Yellow Planetary Sun, which is today's King, is also connected to the end of not only the beginning of time, but the end of the 20 Bactun cycle of the Maya long count. So we will see that in the next section, but that's where we are today. We are at the on the last day of that central column of the Solkin, the central axis. It's also called the mystic column. 20 days that we go through the cosmic birth canal, connected to the center of the galaxy, and here we are, just making conscious all these evolutionary thresholds that are bringing us to this birth canal. So it's a very auspicious and interesting moment to observe and to contemplate.
Something's being born, as you said. That yellow human is emerging out of that birth canal. So
yes, and of course, well, this is for all of us connected to that last year. That was the year of the yellow human. So it's basically it's like the epic journey of the hero's journey, but as with humanity being the hero. And that's why everything that is happening in Palestine is such an important lesson that we really need to come to terms with.
And the human at this point is giving way to the serpent, the energy of Kin 105. So from Kin 92 to Kin 105 for this year, the question really becomes, how does one wield their life force? Are we using this life force for destructive or creative? Are we wantonly destroying life force? Are we creating with life force? And so it could go either way, because that's the nature of this zone of free will, informed by the human that precedes it. So a very interesting moment we find ourselves in, for sure. As we've said for years at this point, it's one long choice point, and every choice counts, obviously.
Yes.
So the paradigm shift is met with people who are choosing a new paradigm, really, because that's also a choice. So absolutely. Well, I'm grateful for this exploration. I think it's really right on time to bring the fractal lens in a new way in this conversation, particularly pertaining to the noosphere, as we continue to make that conscious, as we make this journey towards the golden intersection of timelines. Very, very auspicious things. Also to note, today being the resonant dog in the long count, weren't you pointing that out as well?
Oh, yeah.
So we're kind of amplifying that resonant energy, and what from the heart as it relates to Oak or the dog, that loyalty and that heart, that compassion is what's really being summoned, I would also say, at this time in this year, in this whole energy. Well, I'm excited to move into the next section because time is absolutely art.
Yes.
Patterns in nature and number. 5 generations into the noosphere. This felt like the right time for this theme, given that we also have some good news to share. I don't know if now's the time to maybe posit this opportunity coming up, which is I think a boon for this effort to raise awareness about the golden intersection of timelines. But so please, is this a good time to maybe posit the invitation that you all have received?
Oh, yeah. Well, this is still like a process that is in the making.
Okay.
But we are, let's say that we have been looking for ways to really make sure that the golden intersection is honored and as is seen in its full dimension. And everything that we are going to share today we will be sharing here locally in Mexico to make sure that and this is part, of course, what we are going to share also in Palenque, to put into context the golden intersection, no? Because what is happening today is it gives us a lot of context to everything that we will be doing for the golden intersection, because the time is basically telling us the cycles, this completion of 4 generations since the atomic era and the 5 generations of the noosphere. So if we take 1925 as the moment when the first, or the word started to really appear in publicly, and let's say that the cycles are really showing us that we are going through a major generational shift right now, and that the completion of these 13 tunes on October 14, 15, and then on December 21st, the completion of 13 solar years from December 21st, 2012, are really holographic time containers that are telling us that there is the completion of yet another stage. So what we are seeing is that these cycles of 20 years and 13 years are telling us that it is really for something new to emerge, and that something new is basically the planetary mind, but in a more, let's say, a different way. It's open, everything that is happening, this convergence of historic events and geopolitical decisive moments that are happening right now on the planet are really preparation for creating the new. This is Jose Arguelles always used the term the second creation, and the second creation was the start of the. It was right from the moment that we crossed the December 21st, 2012 event horizon, and we crossed from Bakun 13 to Bakun 14. There are two major evolutionary stages that can be basically elucidated from that passing. And right now, since we are closing another container of 13 years, we are experiencing the next iteration or the next expression of what happened in 2012 at a very subtle level, but now it's going to be much more, let's say, visible, probably, and we are feeling it. What was not for many people was not probably evident and not enough in 2012. Now it's becoming really evident. So the last few days in the last heptad was really an open window to contemplate the closing of these cycles of 20 years, the closing of this cycle of 13 years, and observing them through the lens of what is transpiring on Earth, the historic moment, the unique convergence of events like the war in Europe, the war in the Middle East, or in Gaza, and the emergence of artificial intelligence, the emergence of new systems of control, and how that fits into the entire evolution of the noosphere. Because let's say that the Hiroshima and Nagasaki triggered an acceleration in that timeline, in which the machine keeps advancing at a faster and faster pace. And that's what we are probably right now experiencing with AI, is that exponential speeding up of the process. So what was difficult to imagine a few years ago now is it's like everyday. It's an everyday task. Like many people take and this is part of why we're paying attention on Indigenous Peoples Days, because the theme at the UN was artificial intelligence, and how we are all, as indigenous of the earth, being affected by the rapid emergence of artificial intelligence. So the noosphere and the atomic era really allow us to put into context that decisive qualities of the times we are living. And
it seems like these are also echoes, because if you have the beginning of the noosphere being made conscious by Desjardins in 1922, 23, 24, 25, that window 100 years ago, and then it beginning to get publicized. And I was thinking about this too, when it became public would be 100 years from what will be the Rhythmic Symphony, 2027. So
okay.
according to the research I did, it was 1927 when Edouard Leroy did publicly first use the term noosphere and attributed it to Chardin. But just the point that, these are the unpacking of these stages of what is the emergent noosphere is also described as being catalyzed by that combustion that Vernadsky speaks of then in the 1940s as a biochemist. But the fact is that combustion is not a comfortable process.
Yeah.
It's the advent of the noosphere. It's coming to being because of great agitation, it seems. So this is a part of the phase, or the evolutionary process, but it's also very riveting. It's wrought with friction and conflict, and this combustible energy that we're witnessing now, manifested in the form of the atomic age, that, as you mentioned, Vernadsky interestingly missed being actually witness to. What he anticipated, he missed it by like 6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very interesting thing. And I think similarly to Dr. Arguelles, he missed reaching the threshold of December 21st, 2012. Like, he closed his role like a year and a half before the closing of the actual cycle, right? So I think that's also interesting. Vernadsky didn't get a chance to see it realized in the similar way that Jose didn't get a chance to really see it from the body, we might say, realized in terms of what was being closed in the closing of the cycle, and then what was being opened in that second creation.
Yes.
So very, very interesting just to consider, though, these waves over the past century.
Yes, and if we can actually put it into context, going to the next slide, this is what we were sharing on our first slide of this broadcast, but is really, well, knowing that if we go back to the origin of the events that are right now transpiring, and we use the Mayan framework, we start to see patterns emerging. And even though we already have covered extensively some of the dates that we are speaking or covering tonight, well, this is always good to keep present, because every time that we make it conscious, it is we are at a different level of consciousness. So it's not us ourselves, by preparing the slideshow, we're having the realization of new connections and new events that seem to be disconnected, but that are really part of a larger tapestry. And as we keep track of these important moments in our evolution as humanity, we can really perceive that larger story happening, which is kind of communicating through number, through synchronicity, through the similarities of what we are living on a day-to-day basis. But that, as you mentioned, there are echoes of the past that are just reverberating right now as we move out, or we close this resonant channel of the Tzolk'in matrix. And yeah, we wanted to make sure that we are using the best correlation. So this is from famc.org, which is a website destined to really have a database or is a resource for all related to Mayan culture. And according to their website, Monday, August 11, 3114 BC corresponds to the start. We want to make this public because of the different ways of approaching this. We know the indigenous peoples of Guatemala, they have probably a different take on this. So we are just using, let's say, the tools that we have at hand, which are these converters, and the bibliography that we have at hand to make these correlations. And the date August 11 is, even though it's only like one candidate, it seems to be the most respected candidate for the start, according to different calculations. We saw yesterday also a video from another local researcher, and he was saying August 12th. But let's say that this window is close enough for us to pay special attention. Don't focus too much on the details of 1 or 2 days, the differences, but really the window of what is happening around these dates, and what is transpiring in the world. And this date within the framework of the history of the Noosphere and the Maya long count, corresponds to the start of this matrix of 260 generations that we see here. This is the map of the 13th Baktun wave harmonic of recorded history, in which the history of human civilization is represented in 13 periods called Baktuns of 144,000 days each, which is about 400 years. It's really, the amount is 400 tuns, or cycles of 360 days, but it is close to 20 generations, one cartoon being also 19.7 years. So basically, we are today on the day-to-day count. We are in that at that marker. We are really at the beginning of the entire cycle of human evolution again. That's one way of contemplating it. And of course, this cycle that ended on December 21st, 2012, where we see this magenta stripe, that's the 13th Baktun of recorded history, which is called the Bactun of the mechanization of time, and the Bactun of the transformation of matter. And most of the transformations of the machine took place on that 13th Bactun. It's with the the industrial revolution, the improvement of the mechanical clock, and all the machines, the evolution of the machine is taking place right there. And this is important for us because after December 21st, 2012, we are entering a new stage of evolution. So we always say that 260 days is the cycle of human gestation. But here we can see that 260 generations or Katuns, which is what this matrix that we see right here, is the gestation of an entire human species. So we are at the start of a new cycle, and that's what the next slide is all about, to put into context that this story keeps moving towards the completion of another larger fractal of 20 Bactuns that we will close in the year 4772, as recorded in stone in Palenque, on the west panel of the Temple of Inscription. The day October 13, 4772 will correspond to the last day of Bactun number 20. So Jose Argüelles, Dr. Jose Argüelles, he divided the evolution of humanity in those two large cycles: the cycle of 13 Bactuns of recorded history and the cycle of the 7 Bactuns of the Noosphere. So basically, we just enter in the year 2012 to a new cycle of the Noosphere, and of course, we need to also make conscious that even though the word Noosphere is only 1 century old, well, the Noosphere is way older than that. It goes back to the moment when probably the first men created art in their Rupestриan art in their caves, and that was the first moment of self-reflection that we could place through art as a species, an image that will self-reflect something not only for ourselves but for the next generations.
So this image is profound as I'm looking at it with the 7 Bactuns here. And so you're saying that 7th Bactun, according to this fractal presentation, this map here, that Katun coded by 140 completes that 7th Bactun, or completes the 20 Bactuns of the Pictun, basically.
Yes.
So coded by the code that is today. Just to make that clear for people, let's be clear. So you're saying that this future code or completion of the 20 Bactuns, of which we're now in the 14th Bactun, right? We're within the first Katun of the 14th Bactun. Just to be clear for people, how the factoring works. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's why we have two. We are here in this graphic. One is the star at the upper left corner, our upper left corner, which is kin 1.
Yes.
And that's Katun 1.
Right.
So the Katun 1 goes basically for 20 tunes, or 20 cycles of 360 days each, until we complete 7,200 days. So we are still there, and like I mentioned at the beginning, since each of these units of time corresponds to one cartoon, which is approximately one generation, which is roughly 20 years. From the year 2012 to the year 2031, 2032, we are there. We are still the birthing of the new species that emerges out of the 13 backtones of history and the 260 generations of the contained within that 13 backtone count. And what is amazing about this closing of, let's say, backtoon 140 to complete 20 backtoons, because we have 260 cartoons from the cycle of 13 backtoons, and now we have 140 cartoons for this cycle of 7 backtoons. That day, as we can see on the next slide, where we have a complete breakdown of the dates on the Mayan long count of the major markers, it's going to be a day, the long count date will be 1.0.0.0.0.0 Tenahau. And that means, as we can see, it's going to be Katun Tenahau, or 10 Sun, the equivalent, on a day Tenahau. So what we see at the lower right corner, in rounded highlight, is that's basically the energy of the day in the long count, not in the dream spell, of course. Today is in the dream spell, but we wanted to make that conscious because a year ago we were synchronizing with the start of the new dispensation of time. So now, 1 year later, the start of the long count is synchronizing with this energy of Tenahau, or the yellow planetary sun within the new dispensation of time. But is swapped. It's a fractal. Instead of the count of 20 backtoons ending on a day 10 Sun, or King 140, is ending on a day 10 Ahau, which is the equivalent of King 140. That's what we noticed, and Alejandra was the one who noticed this morning. And this is the reason why we are doing this recapitulation, because we notice in the morning that today connects with the past and connects with the future. So and connects with the future in a nested fractal way, which makes it even more powerful. And it's a sign that a major hologram is kind of making a perfect. It feels the two systems dock like in a very elegant way and align, so that we can make these realizations conscious, because of these are not everyday milestones. These are milestones that are references to larger, very, very, very large cycles of evolution of 140 generations. We don't have the as individuals within our limited framework of a lifespan, really appreciate the depth of that. 260 generations, 140 generations. What we basically are doing our best to everything we do, think in the next 7 generations, just the next 7, which is actually 140 years.
Look at that. 7 generations.
Yes.
We love these frequencies. Again, the patterns. Patterns in nature and number.
Yes.
7 generations, 140. Today's kin 140.
Yes, and that means that in 10 days we will be connecting with that point again. As we can see here, the start of the long count took place on kin and on the dream spell. Important to clarify this on the new dispensation of time. If we use the system to go back in time, we will notice that the start of the long count is kin 157 dog. So in 10 days, we will be again going through a little bit of a replay of this energy of today, and the two cycles are kind of talking to each other. The long count, and but not only the long count, the, the, the ancient indigenous Maya count and the galactic Maya count are basically closing a circuit of important cycles, and today is the best opportunity to really appreciate that. And we give thanks to Alejandro for noticing that, and we give thanks for
Absolutely.
for all the work that we have been doing over the past years, because these infographics are, we have been basically building upon the work that we have been doing for the last few years. These infographics are 4, 5, 6 years of age. And this we decided to put this because that's another fractal expression of where we are right now. What we see here is another fractal expression of the cycles that we are in right now. And in the same way that we close on December 21st 13 back tunes, on October 14 we will close 13 tunes, which are basically, each tune is a fractal within this framework of one back tune. So each, in 360 days, we are basically recapitulating everything that happened in 144,000 days. That's the fractal time compression rate that we are navigating at the moment. Because especially since we crossed that threshold of December 21st, 2012, well, everything has speeding up exponentially more and more. And the golden intersection marks that climatic point in which the Gregorian calendar is going to complete 443 years and start the 444 year, 444, on October 15. And the Solkin will complete 18. We will complete 18 galactic spins, or 18 cycles of 260 days from December 21st, 2012. It would be a day for a how also. And we will complete 13 cycles of 360 days from that point in time also. That's why we are saying that the long count, the Solkin, the Gregorian, and the Galactic Maya count are synchronizing that day, are coming together, and we are right now in that fractal that is redeeming everything that took place on Backtune 13, because since October, I think it was October 19, when we started the last tune cycle of 360 days. In the graphic, we can see that it was kin 104 on the dream spell, and this tune cycle will close on kin 204, the yellow solar seed. So we are right now basically only 8 to 9 heptads away from reaching that completion of the 13 tunes. And from there to the completion of 13 solar years on December 21st, 2025, it will be a really, really interesting time to see what happens, because we will be in between those two fractals of 13 toons and 13 years. And this is special because in the galactic Maya count, December 21st is going to correspond to Kin 12, which is going to be the 12th day of the Solkin cycle 55. So basically, we will be starting a new galactic spin synchronized with the completion of 13 solar orbits of December 21st, 2012. That's another major milestone. 55 Solkins. We know that everything, all these frequencies and key numbers and completion of cycles are fractals of each other. And when we complete fractals of 52 Solkins, like what we were doing a year ago, we were completing 52 Solkins from the new dispensation of time. And we complete 13 toons on October 14. That those markers are really giving us the real transcendental nature of the cycles we are completing. And in the next slide, we can see how that cycle, which is the Baktun 20, which we are we will be closing on October 14, 2025 at a fractal scale of 13 cycles of 360 days. It corresponds, like I mentioned before, the Baktun of the transformation of matter, and we see the atomic mushroom next to the Ahau glyph on the right. This is part of the same map, the 13 Baktun map, the illustration that goes with that, and we can see how each of those Katuns, that goes from Katun 241 to Katun 260, they hold an important historic milestone or event, and we can see Hiroshima is highlighted here on Baktun 257 as the event that really accelerated this geocombustion that Vladimir Vernadsky speaks about, and that he was not able to witness, but that now with us being on this side of the cycle, on the other side, and having 13 years of experience in navigating this window, we can really perceive the closing of cycles and the opening of cycles in a very, very clear and complete way. We are seeing how these Ouroboros is kind of biting its tail over and over and over again, and we see different expressions of that happening. And what is happening is that since the start of the long count is so close to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, those events are kind of keep overlapping, and until we are able to fully compose them and overcome the imprint, the memory imprint. And what we see here is that these 80 years of Hiroshima and Nagasaki are going to be followed on October 16 and 17, on August 16 and 17, in only, that will be next episode, almost next episode, but one day after. Our next episode will be August 18, Gregorian, but the harmonic convergence will be completing 38 years, and these two events are holding the same galactic signature. They took place on Kin 55. We already covered this in another show. So these are a slide from that episode 33 of the Galactic Spin. And we see how this divergent wave of Hiroshima was neutralized by a convergent wave with the harmonic convergence on the same galactic signature, which is Kin 55. So the intention of praying and holding space for peace at different places or power places all over the world on August 16, 17, 1987 was intended to really become a neutralizing wave of energy for the divergent nature of Hiroshima.
A counterforce.
Exactly. Yes. And as we can see here, on the ancient Maya long count, their harmonic convergence took place on one image, which is the start of a 260-day cycle, the start of the 260 Katun cycle, but at a fractal scale of days.
It's so powerful just to think also at that point of the dispensation of the new time, which had only just been a few days prior to the harmonic convergence, the counts were separated by a frequency of 55.
Yes.
And now they're at a frequency of 44. So we're incrementally synchronizing the counts, which we've said in past episodes will be synchronized in the year 2208. They are actually holding the same, and it'll be a yellow human. In fact, I think that they enter together, if I'm not mistaken. I think the actual, they enter together in a yellow human.
212, which is for human or for ep. And really, since the harmonic convergence, we have been highlighting this alliance between the two counts and the fact that these dates were probably picked or chosen contemplating the fact that we were starting a new cycle of 260 days, a new sacred cycle within the ancient Maya long count. The long count or the Solkin count on that day, which, as we can see on the next slide, which are actual factual pictures of the harmonic convergence.
And it almost seems to me that, the fact that it was on the in the traditional count or the long count, the Maya long count, it was Kin 1 or 1 Emosh, that the coding of it was connected to the fact that the atomic bomb on Hiroshima was released on Kin 55. Though the remedy is synchronization through the behavior of the actual traditional count. It's like, even though the Kin was perhaps reflected or selected because that was the Kin of August 6, 1945, coming that many years later. Now, how many years later was it? 45 to 87. So that was a 52-year cycle, was it?
42.
No, 42-year cycle. Okay, perfect. But then, in any case, it seems that the selection of it is auspicious in that it may have been selected as Kin 55 though this weaving of the traditional count is just like we see with the golden intersection of timelines. It's the one that effectively is harmonizing. It's serving to raise the vibration of the entire, everything.
Yes.
It seems.
And the fact that we just completed 53 galactic spins from the harmonic convergence in last kin 55, well, that's another important component of this equation, because 53 is associated with rebirth. It's called the number of Syrian rebirth, same as the dragon. But in this case, is the equivalent of the red magnetic Skywalker kin 53, or the day one Ben, or Hun Ben, or one the first day of the wave spell, or the trecena, the 13-day cycle of the archetype of the Skywalker, which is connected to Quetzalcoatl, one Ejecatl. So, one reed is also the name that it's known in the Aztec count. So the reed, or the Ben, is connected to this energy of Quetzalcoatl, the prophet Seacatl Topiltzin Quetzalcoatl, who was born on that day, one Ben, and that is the equivalent of 53. That's why everything is really connected with a part of the story that is making this passage so unique in so many different ways, because like I mentioned before, the kin are playing a sort of melody of harmony with the cycles that we are completing. So the fact that we will enter on for this December 21st, 2012, we will be entered also the 55th Solkin, since the new dispensation of time is very important to keep in mind, as we mentioned before. And these are this is a quote actually on the next slide of Jose Arguelles. As a reminder, we already quoted, but please note, humans, this process of reversing negative effects of karma was already initiated on August 16, 1987, within the radial matrix of galactic time. August 16, 1987, the harmonic convergence, and August 6, 1945, the atomic bombing of Hiroshima bear the same galactic gateway, kin 55, blue electric eagle. Because a critical portion of humanity was able to be aroused and open again to the sun at dawn, August 16, 1987, the process of reversing the 1260 dream spell of history was able to commence. This is from a report entitled Arcturus Fast Forward, the ABCs of Galactic Culture, that Jose and Lloydine wrote in, I think it was the year 1994. In January. But it's basically in a nutshell why this coming August 16 is another opportunity to bring into memory the harmonic convergence and bring that memory to the golden intersection, because what we have been highlighting is that the golden intersection builds upon all these major synchronization points, so that we can have another harmonic convergence, but of cycles at this junction, which marks the completion of 13 tunes from the long count, and 18 Solkins from the long count, and 443 years of the Gregorian calendar. It's like all these timekeeping systems are reaching that 0 point, orchestrated by the golden number. So that's what really we want to highlight tonight, is that we want to honor the opportunity to celebrate this reverberation of the harmonic convergence, not only at the golden intersection of timelines, but really in this coming August 16, 17. Is important to keep that in mind. Whatever happens on the planet, just bear in mind that this is in the background, like playing a melody that we are just starting to see emerge into the physicality, and that the completion of these holographic milestones and the fullness of those milestones are indicators of endings and new beginnings. And well, this is again the 2 days of the harmonic convergence. We just want to show the important milestones on the indigenous Mayas, one image and two ik, as the markers for the harmonic convergence, the places that that people gather around the world. It was here 14 places, and how this, again, going back to where we started, how these 80 years of Hiroshima play out within that larger storyline of the Noosphere. Because this is only something that is emerging in the last few days as we prepare for the golden intersection. We are using the manifesto for the Noosphere as one of our guiding rods in the process, and it called our attention that on the first page he mentions that the word appeared in 1926, or the word Noosphere was coined in the year 1926. But doing some research, we found that it probably, the origin goes prior to that, and that we are at that threshold of the 100 years of the Noosphere. At least the idea of the Noosphere, and the fact that because of that word, we have now a framework to interpret within an evolutionary timeline what is happening on Earth, what are these geopolitical stances are really part of a larger story, or an echo of a larger story, and that we can only perceive that larger story through the right lens, which is this concept of the Noosphere and the biosphere Noosphere transition timeline, which was developed by Dr. Arguelles. And if you want to read, this is part of the research that you were doing on the origin of the word Noosphere.
Of the terminology, yes. And this amounts to imagining, in one way or another, above the animal biosphere, a human sphere, a sphere of reflection, of conscious invention, of conscious souls, the noosphere, if you will. And that was stated by Pierre Teilhard de Chardin in an essay, an unpublished essay, in fact, titled Harmonization, from the year 1922. So that becomes the first noted example of the use of the word that was always attributed back to Chardin by Vernadsky as well as Leroy. They always attributed the credit of the term to Desjardins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we are, let's say that within that threshold of the 100 years, and of course all of this is bringing this theory of evolution back to our awareness, and under Pierre Teilhard de Chardin's perception or optics, this is part of the evolution of consciousness, can be divided in these stages that he calls the cosmogenesis, geogenesis, biogenesis, homogenesis, and Christogenesis. And the Christogenesis is kind of the realization of Christ consciousness. But before that, we see the Noosphere there highlighted in red as an intermediate stage between the homogenesis and the Christogenesis. And it is actually the word that emerged out of that is the noogenesis. And Jose adopted the word to refer to the first stages of the manifestation of the noosphere, and how those stages will be playing out. So, of course, we are now seeing by this completion of cycles and by the synchronicities like the one we just made conscious of, in one day reuniting an event like Nagasaki connected to the mind of the biochemist who, let's say, and was able to see what was coming, which is Vladimir Vernadsky, and how that has been affecting us as human and as indigenous peoples from the earth, because we are all indigenous peoples of the earth, and that's kind of the symbolism behind these three events converging in one day is what really inspired the content of this podcast. It gives us a perfect entry point to analyze and perceive what is happening with this fourth dimensional lens. And this is a quote from Vernadsky: "Living matter is the most powerful geological force growing with time. And since the human species is at the forefront of probably all living matter, or it believes that it's at the forefront, should I say, we became a geological force that is really becoming more and more aware of our capacities, and at the same time we can clearly see like a splitting of timelines in between the old way of perceiving things and the old paradigm based in war, and the new paradigm based in harmony and evolution. So the invitation is to really during these few years to become really vessels for that noosphere to emerge. I think that the fact that we are navigating that 100-year threshold is because the noosphere wants to be known through us. Really, that's what is emerging, is that we are those thinking cells of the planetary mind, and are having a moment of self-reflection in which through all these events and probably all the chaos and the miscreations that as a species we have created for ourselves, we can come out of that just by an act of self-reflection and of course correction. And
wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Reminds me of what King Atsnab has mentioned as well, just in terms of oops, I'm sorry, I got a little distracted here trying to move images. But no, we'll go ahead. I don't want to.
Yeah. No, we are basically we having a great opportunity to make the Noosphere conscious, to do it in a way that it's empowering, and this is just the beginning of the emergence of a new organism, which is the Noosphere, that we still don't know how it's going to play out. We still don't know how consciousness is connecting and how this thinking layer is evolving. We just can have glimpses of the process, and these glimpses are driven by synchronicity. And of course, we are the only ones being able to self-reflect on those, and to use our conscious abilities and mental abilities to create the solutions that will bring out of the conundrum, and the stage, the in-between stage that we are right now. According also to the gene keys, remember that this genetic mutation that we are transiting is part of a larger process that also started with the supernova of 1987, supernova 1978 Quetzalcoatl, which in a couple of days we will be completing also 36 Solkins from that event, 36 or 37, I'm not sure, but it's the no, not 36, 40, 50, 55 of that event that triggered a new set of mutations on our DNA, and that they are connected to gene key 55 also. So all these elements of the narrative are kind of connecting now as we enter into those cycles. Cycle 52, 53, 54, 55 are going to be critical in the process that we are, that mutation process that we are. The Noosphere, the sphere of human consciousness and mental activity, especially in regard to its influence on the biosphere and in relation to evolution. That's basically the in a nutshell the description of the Noosphere, and Vernadsky was the one who really make the distinction between the geosphere, the biosphere, and the Noosphere. And because he was already a witness of the events that led to World War One, and that dovetailing in the events of World War II, he was able to really call this biochemical combustion before time. And right now, after 80 years of that first demonstration of what the human species can accomplish as a geological force, well, we have the opportunity to reflect on that and make that Jose always emphasized that the way of making the noosphere conscious is by one, of course, using our minds to connect, to activate our telepathy and connect with these larger telepathic structures that govern life. And one expression of that is the cybank, or the planetary brain, which is the next slide. This is basically the structure of the memory field of the Earth, of the cybank. Is comprised of 2,080 memory units, 260 times 8. And we were noticing also that next year we will complete, by the end of the year of the galactic moon, which is the next year, in the year 2027, when we reach that threshold of the gene keys and human design and the rhythmic symphony, we will completing 2,080 heptads since the new dispensation of time. So we will basically the milestone that we will be completing when we are arriving to the year 2027 is a fractal of the cybank in weeks, and that's another indicator that the process is arriving to of a large.
I think we might be losing you there, Ruben. Reception. All right, I'm not quite sure. Are you still there, Ruben? Come back if you are. Shout out to everybody in the live chat. Thank you for keeping it lively over there. Lots of great exchange. What I was going to say previous to this, and the cybank image is perfect for it because it does reflect those new time cells of consciousness. That's what I was going to attribute to King Etznab as a terminology he's been saying. But this relates to this technology. This relates to what has emerged as a result of the noosphere becoming conscious. And so we're seeing this happening as a counterforce, a counterbalance over these past 80 years to all of this, effectively all this mayhem that we've seen on the world stage. But from that Pierre Teilhard de Chardin graphic, we could see that there was the expression of that period of complexity, as you can see in the chart going up on the left-hand side. Let me put it on the screen. Oops, looks like we lost Ruben completely. So let me see how we can do this. One moment. Stand by for me there, and hopefully we get him back here in a moment. But one second while we address this and keep moving. It looks like he's back. Hopefully we can continue. Here we go. Okay, you there, Ruben? Okay. Yeah, I was mentioning when you got disconnected that the graphic of the cybank was reminding me of the terminology I heard from King Etznab recently about the time cells of consciousness. There are new time cells of consciousness, and that is what a lot of this technology or these interpretations reflects, are these new time cells of consciousness. Mm-hmm. And so they are coming online, though we're also encountering a lot of contrast and resistance to the shift, that we can see that the de facto world in its usual status over the past 100 years, with all the complexity that comes with that, is very resistant to the change. Even though it might appear on its face, all the innovation, all the technology, all of that is an expression of change. That's not the type of change I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. The change we're talking about is a change that tends back to the heart, the change that expresses compassion. That's a change that we're changing towards as who we truly are as evolving beings, as an evolving species. And so when we see these terminologies and these processes being described by Vernadsky or Chardin, they're all expressing this phenomenal evolutionary process that seems to be dawning in human consciousness over the past century, something we're becoming increasingly aware of. And now that we're on this side of the closing of the cycle, we know those new time cells of consciousness are active. Now, you have to also, in some ways, have already made the shift into the new paradigm to even begin to navigate these coordinates. Otherwise, they'll be lost on you for the most part. And many people who are still caught up in this combine and this attractor of the world of contrast and conflict, these new time cells of consciousness will be missed on them, just like the Cybank will be very well missed on them to some degree. Now, granted, we'd love to see as many people awaken to these things, but as Audrey Scott Williams has often reminded me in years past, each one in their own time. In other words, every soul is going to come to their own awareness as part of this overall evolutionary process in their own time. And, so I was just kind of talking a little bit about that when you got disconnected. Let me catch back up and put the right image on screen so we can keep on and bring this to a close. Here we go.
Yeah, and just to put into general context, which is what the manifesto for the Noosphere really brings us into perspective, is that we are in this time of transition. And can be compared to a healing crisis, and we just the patient needs to get a little worse before it gets better. And it seems like because of the events that are transpiring on Earth, we are at that threshold right now, in which, of course, we are all representing humanity or Palestine is representing all humanity. And if we are able to pass that test as a species and stand for each other, then the process will really go into a whole different dimension. And of course, we don't know exactly how this is going to look like the next few weeks towards the UN General Assembly. The 80th version of that is going to be probably loaded and charged. And the idea is that we hold space for the highest and most harmonious solution to take place by the grace.
Now, I know you included this last slide.
This is just for people who want to go really deeper in this series that we started for Earth Day 2023. Or no, actually, yeah, it was Earth Day 2022.
Yeah.
We really went deep into using that fractal yardstick of 52 years of Earth Day as another reference point. The emergence of the word Noosphere is a reference point. The emergence of the observation of Earth Day is another threshold. Of course, the moment of the closing of the cycle is another threshold in evolution. Yeah. The more we make these big moments conscious, the more we are able to perceive how all of them are connected and articulated in an impeccable way. For instance, I remember that the 53rd version of Earth Day was 1979, which was a reflection of the Noosphere. So these are really layers that reveal themselves as we move in in in, in, in time, and it's good to keep a record, and that's why we added the link. Is in our blog in Medium. Is a series of 13 articles, but in the first article, let's say we summarize as best as we could the this passage from the biosphere to the technosphere to the noosphere, and how artificial intelligence and these different geopolitical dramas that are emerging on Earth are part of are an important part of that narrative. They are the protagonists, basically.
And I'll also say that the presentation about the AI element really happened prior to AI becoming what it has become. Like, as I recall, I mean, 2022 is at the very beginning of AI being made public in the way it is through ChatGPT or other platforms like that. So just to say that this is very timely in the expose or the contemplation of such.
Yeah, it's an ongoing process that we have been witnessing, and that right now is reaching another threshold, a major one, probably the most important one since December 21st, 2012. And and of course, it is amazing to be alive and witness all that is happening, and leave the record, keep the record.
And also, I think what's interesting is while we're looking at this, and as you mentioned as well, the conversation on the 8th of August, which was the day that the UN commemorated the International Day of World's Indigenous Peoples, they did have a conversation about the impact of AI on indigenous cultures and communities and language and things like this. And so, I mean, that's obviously a very timely conversation, because we can see the contrast with AI. It's like to some degree, like the discovery of fire. The many ways fire can be used to either create or destroy is very similar to the advent of AI, because there are great benefits to AI. You know, I won't negate that there are great uses for AI in terms of refinement of content or a variety of things. I mean, there's myriad applications for it, obviously. Though at the same time, among these myriad applications, we are finding very diabolical applications that we have to be very, very clear about calling out. Like, we really have to be clear about calling that out. Just like in the conference on the 8th of August, there was some real clear calling out of some of the uses of AI, particularly as it relates to how it interfaces with indigenous communities. And this is the kind of thing we need to be more present to and more vocal about, because the future of AI is not so completely determined, I would say. I think that the distinction is how humanity will step up at this point in the service of compassion, like we're saying, to pay attention to respond accordingly to the situations we see completely out of hand and out of balance across the world stage. You know, whereas that's happening, this rise of AI is happening, so people are in this other space in some cases where they're completely, or maybe not completely disconnected, but perhaps on a different trajectory. So how can we find the middle? In other words, get to the heart of the matter, so we can leverage these tools and technologies for the greater good or a higher purpose. Idyllic, perhaps, though, you know, I feel like, what other choice do we have? You know, of course, you can completely unplug and disconnect, though I don't know that's also a solution en masse, because the wave is such that, you know, the wave has already happened that have brought AI into the fold. So on this next wave, it's just going to be it's an opportunity, I would say, to get more and more refined in how we navigate these times of great peril and great potential. It's both at the same time. Yeah. And so hopefully by applying this lens that we're providing here, people can begin to use these tools to sense make for themselves what's really in resonance with your heart, your center, your values, your ethics, the things that you want to see planted for the next 7 generations. Because we're at the point now where what we do now is going to have a very distinct impact on that, especially as we meet this window of compression over the next several heptads. So it's going to be very important to pay attention, stay awake at the wheel as we navigate this, because we're in unprecedented times, I have to say, without a doubt. And so it's been good, though, to take a reflection into the past century to get a sense a bit of where the making conscious of the noosphere has mattered and why it continues to matter. It's not fully realized yet either. And in some cases, you'll find the noosphere identified as the layer of artificial technology. It's considered in some, definitions, it's not necessarily seen as the energetic telepathic layer of humanity, the way maybe Arguelles might describe it, but it's seen as this technospheric layer that connects the world. Yeah. And that's also called noosphere, in a sense, similar to how maybe Arguelles had described the internet as proto-telepathy. Mm-hmm. So, just appreciating the transition we find ourselves in, while also, not neglecting to honor the organic technology also during this time of great complexity and great transformation, the transformation of matter, and we being an extension of that, I would say. Being that that's how the 13th Bach tune was described, I'd wonder how this Bach tune would be described, how we might define this Bach tune that we're just at the very beginning of.
Yeah, that's an interesting contemplation.
Yeah, just something maybe invites others to consider how they might describe it, because maybe it's the unknown. There's so many unknowns, and yet it's just a remarkable time. It's really, really something. So thank you, brother. Thank you for that navigation, and thank you, Alejandra, for making conscious these important synchronicities. Just to really bring that forward is so powerful, so very powerful.
Yeah. No, thank you for and thank you to everyone also who are listening or will be listening and be able to go through the full presentation, because it is really these are momentous times, and we just want to leave the record straight and make sure that we are doing our best to put into context the golden intersection and what it means, and why this is really a decisive moment and decisive days for humanity and the planet.
Absolutely. And as we look at what is next, today we happen to be 64 days to the golden intersection of timelines. Powerful number, that 64. Obviously, it holds a lot of meaning on a lot of levels. Our genetic DNA levels, for example, the gene keys as well, another expression of that number 64. So again, all numbers are frequency. They're an expression of quality as well as expression of quantity. And we know that this energy of 64 is very, very significant. 8-8, we just had the 8-8 portal, 80 years since Hiroshima and Nagasaki, 8 and 8, 8 times 8 being 64. And so many other reflections of that. I just want to posit that here, though, for folks. And we're also in Gene Key 7 right now, so we can make that conscious. And 7 is the shadow of division, which is interesting because at the top we started to talk about the fact that there are so many efforts to keep us divided when we can all see the complete, annihilation of a people that cannot be denied. So we should not be divided on that anymore. Like, we can all perceive what is happening. And so that's one of the aspects of this, the shadow of division and the gift of guidance. The gift of Gene Key 7 is guidance. So the guidance that we need to make that shift in consciousness, honestly. And then the Siddhic quality of virtue. Gene Key 7. Now we know 7 is also very significant as far as the numbers go. It certainly shows up in this cosmology in many, many different ways. Though here we are, 64 days to the big moment, a significant moment on our horizon.
Yes, and also, well, it's interesting that this Gene Key 7 is, right at the closing of the seventh column of the Solking matrix, which is
okay. I stand corrected because I'm looking at my phone, and so I have it wrong.
okay.
So Gene Key 7 ended as of
Okay.
earlier today. So depending upon what time zone you find yourself in, you would have had an overlapping of Gene Key 7, though today, as Ishel reminded me, we are actually in Gene Key 4. We're in the very beginning of Gene Key 4, which, of course, auspiciously is the shadow of intolerance, the gift of understanding, and the city of forgiveness. So we know that that's also very resonant in the field, given the echoes of the decades past, of what has transpired decades past over this past week with Hiroshima and Nagasaki again, but still that compelling energy to the heart in any case. So yeah, we give thanks. Thanks for that correction reflection from our team. And I know that actually that Gene Key 4 is directly related to her and part of her hologenetic profile. So that's good to know. And as we can also see, we're looking toward, and let me switch screens here, but we're looking toward the golden intersection of timelines. And obviously we have this incredible gathering coming together in Palenque in ceremony with local community, Abuelo Nico on the left, Abuelo Mario on the right. As you can see them on your screen, will be among those gathered together in ceremony, all together, from people from around the world, people from throughout the region there in Palenque and Chiapas, La Camha, and the area surrounding. So we're really, really looking forward to this. And we know several people are planning to travel to Palenque to be there with us in person, people coming from all over the world, in fact. So we're grateful to be able to meet everyone there who is able to come there and be with us. And certainly we are inviting people, wherever you may be for those days, to be in the heart and to be in a reflection of this energy. And as we'd like to remind you, there are some significant timelines being completed, I would like to think. Artificial timelines in particular getting leveled up in a major way. And so, and do you want to speak on the graphic here? As I know we included.
Yeah, and just remind also people that well, the event in Palenque is an open call. it's not a closed retreat or an activity that we are organizing to bring a small group of people. It's open to everyone. The call is out, and it's really more a matter if you feel like resonating. We will do our best to hold space for those 7 days to or 8 days that we are going to gather, to be a full reflection of the harmony that is transpiring in the field. So if you feel called to go, you can join on this QR code, scan it, take a picture, and then use your phone to join our WhatsApp group, where we are putting updates and more information, and people are now starting to meet each other. And of course, it's in English and Spanish. So if don't hesitate to join if you only speak you have been watching this and you feel much better in English. We are doing our best to guide the people who are interested in going in both languages, and make also a special note to the fact that the Hotel Villa Mercedes, which is the place where we are planning to stay and where many of the activities are going to take place, is going to keep special rates until September 15. So we're almost 1 month away from that date, and we just want to make sure that people can enjoy the best out of their stay by booking their rooms with time and having their trips organized, and make sure that everything is going to be way more comfortable if you stay there. But of course, this is only if you have if you want to do it, if you prefer, like you have people that you want to stay with, or if you have any other lodging option, it's open. We will be for sure doing everything we can to coordinate everything through WhatsApp. But it's important that if you go, you'd let us know through the WhatsApp group, so that we can make everything we can to keep everyone connected, and make the experience as best as possible for everyone. And of course, I forgot to say that in the WhatsApp group we have the full program. Here we only show like the outline of this program. Day 1 will be only basically welcoming people. Day 2, which will be October 11, we will be igniting the sacred fire of the heart. Day 3, October 12, encounter of the cultures. We will really harmonize our connection to our past, our present, and our future through the banner of peace. On October 13, we are remembering the future. Again, this is connected to the date in the future, October 13, 14, 47, 72, when we close that larger cycle of the Noosphere. And day 5, which would be October 14, is going to be the golden intersection of timelines. Day 1, return to origin of time. We will be at the archaeological site of Palenque, connecting with the temples, connecting with the land. We will be probably guided by Mario, Abuelo Mario and Abuelo Nico on that experience. And on day 6, we will have our special events of celebration. It's 5 day. Day 161,803 of the Gregorian calendar, and the best way to transmute and compose the effects of the Gregorian calendar is to celebrate art. And so we will be doing art workshops, and we will be crafting our messages to the next 7 generations. We will ideas that we can have a time capsule that we can offer, and as a symbolic offering to the land. Uh, what we want to really see it for not only for the next 7 generations, the next 7 cycles of 20 generations is what we are doing. And day 7, we will return to origin. We'll be able to really enjoy the water element and honor that source of all life, the eternal flow of the pristine waters that are allowing us to really cleanse over and over and over again as a species, and keep living, keep enjoying this planet. And on day 8 will be our homecoming farewell day, and we hope that we can stay connected and really keep that path towards the completion of 13 years in a harmonious way, and interacting with more people around the planet.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So please, 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 if you haven't already, scan the QR, take a screenshot and open it up with your phone. That'll take you to the WhatsApp chat for more information. And Michelle, also, thank you very much for pinning the Get Info chat into the live chat right now. That will have information about the gathering, general information. That's the one you see on your screen. And then there's also the Hotel Via Mercedes info chat for people that want to get the information on the special rates that they are offering, folks participating with the golden intersection of timelines over those 7 nights and 8 days in Palenque. So we give great, great thanks for that. Let me go back to this graphic. I know you had it here. I want to make sure to plant this here as well. This is just, again, articulating the full snapshot, I would say, of the time from the inception of the Gregorian calendar, or its institutionalization, if you will, on October 15th, 1582, on Kin 230, correct?
Yes.
Right, Kin 230, which happens to then be the galactic signature of Helena Roerich, part of the dynamic duo that brings us the Banner of Peace. Okay, and then 161,803 days later, on October 15th, 2025, 443 days later to the day, we have Kin 204. This golden intersection of timelines, bookended with the galactic signature of none other than Nicholas Roerich himself, the other part of the dynamic duo that brings us the Banner of Peace. So literally bookending energetically the beginning and the end of this hologram.
Yeah. And what is also amazing is that the next tune, which will be long count marker 13.0.14.0.0, will be October 9th of 2026, and that will be his solar return. So Nicholas Roerich galactic return marks the end of the 13th tune, and Nicholas Roerich solar return will mark the closing of the 14th tune. So that's another confirmation upon the confirmations, that that there is a major component to this passage that is connected to the Banner of Peace and to the reverence that we want to express to the banner and to their creators, and the message of the banner, of course, the message of peace through culture, and
Exactly.
the unity of art, science, and spirituality under one culture, and of course the unity of past, present, and future also, like we explore today, and as we will explore during our stay in Palenque, and our, our connection with the land there and with the temples.
And we encourage everybody out there to join our event page on Facebook. It's a great way to connect before, during, and following the events there. We want to definitely stay connected. So wherever you may be on the planet, we want to know about it so that we can also hold you in heart and mind as we're gathering in Palenque. We want to know what else is happening around the planet, just where people are tapping in and joining in this resonant frequency. So that's one way to track it, is just to tap in over there on the Facebook page. You can just simply look it up, Golden Intersection of Timelines. It should come up as an event fairly simply in Facebook. So please track that, follow that, tap in there, share in the discussion tab on that particular event page, and let us know what you're going to be up to. And also, we love to ask for your support continually. Share this petition far and wide. We really do want to see this get some real traction. For those of you who know, this is the Calendar Referendum Initiative 2028 open petition, Universal Declaration for World Peace, and a Declaration of Universal World Peace, rather. So we want to make sure to make that conscious as well, encouraging people to sign the petition, share it out there far and wide, beyond maybe the circles that find new circles. We want to find new ways to communicate this to new people. In fact, begin to make this a part of a conversation that you have as we look at the subject of calendars and consciousness and what it really means to make this paradigm shift. So, with all that said, I feel pretty complete. I think you're muted there as well.
Yes, I feel complete too. We went back into the past to the start of the long count, and then to the future, to the end of the 20 Waktuums, and it is like a lot of gymnastics, but it's really an amazing exercise in perceiving the transcendental nature of this window that we are transiting.
Absolutely. It is quite something. Let me see what I can find here. I want to pull up something here to take us home on. I figured we were talking about those new time cells of consciousness, and in the fact that we just observed the UN ID WIP, Indigenous International Day of World's Indigenous Peoples, and the fact that we do have the Harmonic Convergence 38 observance before us in the next few kin. I think it is fitting to continue to help shift those and awaken those new time cells of consciousness. So fortunately for us, we have a theme that was crafted by King Etznab Shaquan El Rey, High Resonance Music, in the honoring of the birth of hip-hop 52 years today. We know hip-hop has evolved to being high resonance music. That's how we claim it and name it. So wanted to just make that conscious as well. Big shout out to everybody who's tapped in the live chat and been rolling with us like this. Thank you so much for your presence and your resonance, and continue to, stay in your light, continue to spiral into that heart space, and give great thanks, as we love to give thanks. Just as we open today, we're going to close with some gratitude as well, and just say thank you again to everybody and all those who've preceded us over the centuries, over the decades, in this effort to bring balance and harmony, bring some coherence to our collective field. So we give thanks for you. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you're on YouTube, and if you're on Facebook, then go to YouTube and like and subscribe anyway. Find a way to help support us getting the numbers up on our channel. And with all that said, we appreciate you, and we will see you in the near now. Yes, indeed.
Aho.
Aho and Lakesh.
Tune in with the Galactic Spin Podcast and expand your view. Galactic Spin Podcast and expand your view.